Hi everybody, let's get started. Hello and thank you for checking out the Stuff I Heard podcast. This is your host, Joshua Peak. So, if anybody's watching the weather, we have another hurricane. Hurricane Michael apparently is coming up from the Gulf Coast and it's getting ready to pound on the panhandle of Florida. It sort of has a direct path for us again. It's not going to be, apparently when it hits Florida, it's going to be a Category 3, which is pretty powerful. This is not like Hurricane Florence. Hurricane Michael apparently is moving pretty quickly. When it hits land, it's going to cause a lot of wind damage. If you'll remember, Hurricane Florence was very slow moving and it caused a lot of rain damage where it just picked up tons and tons of rain dumped on top of us. This is going to cause devastating wind damage up to, what a Category 3 is, which I don't know the number, but I'm sure somebody out there is a meteorologist nut, or some of you guys live down there in that area and you're watching it super close. My friend Greg Steele lives in Albany, Georgia, and he is on the path of this thing. He is going to get quite a bit of wind damage. Hoping that he fares well. I'm hoping that everybody kind of makes it through this okay. It's weird that we have so much weather impacting us like we do here lately. I got asked the question recently if I thought it was due to global warming or if it was due to human activity. The fact that there's been evidence of the government tampering with the weather at times to make it rain in areas it doesn't normally rain, or to stop rain in areas it normally rains a lot. Case in being the Olympics, the Winter Olympics that happened in, Sochi, China, where they made it snow because they needed snow for the Winter Olympics, and they were like, oh, we're not going to let weather stop us, we're just going to make it snow. And they had planes fly by and sprinkle some kind of something in the clouds that made it snow. I can only imagine that the more we mess around with the planet, the more the planet's going to be like, oh yeah? Ooh, I just dropped the microphone. I'm sorry, if you guys are listening, I just dropped you. I'm so sorry. It'd be better if I just leave this thing alone and not touch it. Anyway, the planet sort of, as we mess with it, goes, oh yeah, I'll show you who's boss. And it kind of does its own thing just to remind us that we are not in control. And we are not in control as much as we think we are. We can have a plan. We can say that we know what's going to happen. And then when the force of Mother Nature hits us, it's all bets are off. Because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I would like to talk a little bit about our hurricane preparedness here. We are doing nothing. Zero. By the time it gets to us, it'll have gone through Florida, most of Georgia, and South Carolina. And by the time it gets to us, it's going to be Thursday. Today is Wednesday. We are getting rain today, but it's not anything from the hurricane. This rain is just rain. And it's rained since I woke up this morning. I mean, hard rain. It is, it's rained hard, and then it's rained soft, and then it's rained sideways. It's like that Forrest Gump scene where he's in Vietnam and he's like, it just rained and rained and rained and didn't seem like it ever stopped. That's how it rains here today. And I'm sure it's going to do this all day tomorrow. By the time it gets to us, though, they're saying that we're going to get 2 to 4 inches of rain, and we're going to have winds 30 to 50 miles an hour, depending upon how much of it wears off or how much of it moves or whatever, which could cause tornadoes through Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. It's going to be 30 to 50 mile an hour winds when it gets to us. So up until that point, you can imagine ridiculous wind, okay? Blowing over trees kind of wind. So, like I said, hopefully everybody will be okay. Hopefully everybody will make it without any kind of major problems. Yeah, I don't know, man. Hurricane Florence passed us by, 2 weeks ago? And we still have flooding in a lot of areas. This water that has been receding from our area has washed out roads and has continued to not leave us. We have a lot of water in a lot of towns where parts of the towns are closed or the entire town is still flooded. the town of Nichols, South Carolina, apparently is still underwater. I went through Conway yesterday, and they finally opened up Highway 501 that leads from Florence and Marion and Aynor towards Myrtle Beach. For a while there, the military had brought in the Corps of Engineers to build a barricade to keep the water out of a certain part of 501 so that people could travel to the beach or from the beach. And at one point, that part got flooded as well. But now the waters have receded. But when you drive on it, like we did yesterday, you can see off to the side of the road where water is right up to the road, and there are still residents and businesses that can't get into where they live because it's still underwater. It's amazing, man. It really is amazing. I know that all the time we think that we have control of things, we know what we're doing, and then all of a sudden we don't, and all you can do is go, well, I don't know what to do now. I kind of had a little freak out moment this morning because of the rain, because of the constant rain. I went in the kitchen and made some coffee and was thinking about making some bacon, and I took it out to thaw, and I thought, oh, I can hear it raining. Let me open up this back window and look outside so I can see it raining. And I literally opened up the back window and then looked down, and I could see a reflection of water coming in through the back door, and I thought, wait a second, I have a roof overhang and I have a gutter out here. How is rain getting in here? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have a metal door, and it had one of those things underneath it that stops the wind from coming through with the rubber gaskets that hang down. They kind of, act as like a barrier. That way the door doesn't have to fit exactly perfectly. You can have a little bit of a gap, and those little rubber flap things are supposed to keep the wind from, constantly letting out cold air or letting out hot air, or vice versa. The flaps had long ago worn out, and they sell this replacement piece that you can fit underneath it that slides on like a sleeve. Like if your door hangs down like this, if you're watching the video, you can see my hand holding up, and it slides on like a sleeve right up underneath it, and it fits up snug, and you just cut it to length however long you need it, and open and close the door, and it works fine. Well, I don't know the last time I've changed this piece out that fits underneath it. Let's call it a door gasket, just for lack of a better term. The bottom door gasket. Okay, this bottom door gasket needs to be replaced once in a while, because when you first buy it, it fits up snug to the door, like when you hook it on there like a sock. It's snug to the door, and then after a while, the outside pieces start to kind of bow outward. When they bow outward, if it gets rain in it, it collects rain in that little thing, and then the rain, of course, follows a path, and the path is towards the opening of your house, which is what happened. So I kind of freaked out a little bit. Thank God I had some plastic out in the garage with some duct tape, and I went ahead and just duct taped plastic to the door and told my wife, I said, listen, I gotta go to the store and I gotta get a new door gasket here because this is ridiculous. We also needed something to replace a part that was broken on the toilet. We had a lot of things happen like all at once. We have a guest bathroom here that's off the living room that has been running. Like we just kept hearing water running. Like, why is that thing running? What's wrong? I opened it up and looked at it, and I couldn't tell anything that was going on. It had one of those old style flapper things with the bulb that moves up, and when the water fills up, the bulb moves, the little arm moves, and it eventually gets to a point and it stops moving, and then water stops going in your toilet. Well, there was something wrong inside the mechanism of this part that wouldn't let it sit to where it was shut off. I tried adjusting it, I tried taking it apart and cleaning it and putting it back together. Something is just worn out. I don't know the last time I replaced it, but I can tell you that I've replaced everyone in this house more than once. We've been in this house now 11 years, and that crap needs to be replaced all the time. I didn't make a video about it. I didn't have time or the patience. And so anybody out there wanting to know, how do I fix mine from running? Just go on YouTube and look it up. Somebody out there has a video. I think I've even made a video or two about it. But I went ahead and checked that out yesterday. And I thought, you know, I remember at some point going to the store and buying a kit to replace this with, and I think I actually have it in the garage. I think it's a kit that I bought years ago, and just I realized I didn't need it, so I just sat it in the garage and thought, well, I'll use this one day. This is kind of what happened. It was unopened. I went out in the garage, and sure enough, there's pretty much the whole kit of the guts. It had everything except for the flapper part, the little bottom bulb flapper that covers up your main hole when you flush. But I thought, okay, well, this is going to fix this. So I took it apart, you know, drained the tank, took it apart, got the new little fixture. The new fixture does not have that bulb with the arm. The new fixture has a cylinder that stands upright, a plastic cylinder that stands upright, and a floaty thing that goes around the cylinder. And as the cylinder goes up, it pushes this arm that pushes the thing up to make it shut off, which is way more efficient if you think about it. The only part is, it was missing a piece. When I went to put it together, it was missing a metal piece that fits the floaty part onto the top arm that's supposed to move to shut it off. It was missing that bar. So I'm like, great, now what? So went out to the garage. Thank goodness I still had some heavy duty thick gauge, I guess it's baling wire. Somehow I ended up with a bunch of baling wire from my granddaddy Peak from years ago when he passed away. We went through his garage and I saw a bundle of it, and I took it, and this thing came to the rescue. It was perfect. It was rigid. You can bend it to where you want it to using some needle nose pliers. I bent it around the part that's supposed to float up. I bent it around the little arm that's supposed to click into place. Got it just the right length, and it worked. I went to hook everything up, and everything seemed to work fine, but I noticed that I was still hearing water like trickling, and I was like, why is water trickling? You could just hear it, just the slightest tone of like water coming through the toilet, and you're like, where is the water? So I got my flashlight out and I looked inside the little tube where you can see for the overflow tube to see if water was dribbling from there, and it wasn't. It wasn't coming around the bottom, and I thought, okay, the only other place it could come from is this stupid bulb down here in the bottom that I replace all the time. It seems like, I don't know, it seems like every other year I'm replacing one of those bulbs in the bottom of one of the toilets. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 toilets in this house, and almost every time I turn around, it's like, oh, this one needs a new thing, this one needs a new thing, and this one... okay. And this is one of those things where you kind of, you're thankful that you're a handyman because you could do it yourself, but you're also thinking, how do people do this who don't have any knowledge of this, or even the desire to? Or do they just call somebody every time? Hey, I need a guy to come, you know, I need a handyman. Who can come over and help me do this? You know, I don't know. You would think somebody would eventually use YouTube and go, oh, I know what to do. All I got to do is replace this part. But in the process of doing that kind of stuff, you end up teaching yourself how to do it. You end up learning, this is what takes care of this problem, and I gotta learn, because if you don't, it's going to cost you a lot more money. So instinctively, I just stuck my hand in the tank and pushed on the little bulb on different parts, and I realized that it stopped it from doing it. And I thought, well, crap, I got to replace the bulb. By this time, I had already been working on this stupid toilet for a good hour, and I was tired, and I did not want to go to the store because I knew we needed other things on our grocery list, and I was like, I'll go tomorrow. So I turned the water off on that toilet because it's not a toilet we use all the time. I turned the water off. I told my wife, I said, we'll look at it later. Sure enough, having the water turned off on it, I went to check it this morning when I first got up, early in the morning, and the tank was completely empty. Now, the only place water can go out of once that tank is full is through that flap. So it just told me that, yeah, that flap is definitely, something's wrong with it. So I went to the store this morning, and I got that door gasket thing. I got the toilet flapper. I picked up some other groceries randomly. And I came home and I fixed the toilet also. Just replaced the bulb that's on the bottom, set the chain to the right length, tested it out. No more leaking, no more water running, no more sound of water running. Yay! So that's two things down, okay? This is, like I said, we're gonna call this the day of accomplishment. That's 2 things that I've knocked out of the park already, all right? The other thing was, yesterday, I called the inspector and had an inspection set up for today. When you call the line for the inspection here in Florence County, it has a automated system where you just punch in what your project code is and verify your phone number and set up an appointment, and I did that. So the guy calls this morning and he says, hey, I'm coming out for an inspection. It's raining, but is your holes all covered up with water, or can I see in them? And I said, hang on, let me walk out there and see. I went out there and looked, and 5 of the holes you could see in, and the other ones were all filled up with water. And I said, well, this is what I see. And he says, all right, well, I got to run on the east side of town and do some stuff. I'll be over your way in about an hour and a half, and I'll check it out. I was like, okay. He said, you know, if I can tell that you've dug the holes right and they're, you know, good, I'll just go ahead and sign off on you so you can get started. And I was like, all right. So he came out and he did the inspection after I got done with all the other stuff, and he was like, all right, you're good to go. Here, I'll print you off a little thing saying that you've been inspected for this part. I'm like, great, thanks. So that's done. I've talked to Dad. Dad's gonna hopefully be here Friday, and I'm gonna take Friday off and possibly Monday and Tuesday of next week if needed. And we're gonna attack building this sucker on the back porch, back deck. I feel weird calling it a deck. Back deck. What's the difference between a deck and a porch? Is a porch screened in and a deck just open? That's sort of like when you watch the Travel Channel and they're over in Hawaii and they call their porch a lanai. Oh, look at the lanai. Is that just a fancy name? Is that a Hawaiian term for porch? Seems like it is. Maybe when I get this thing built, I'll tell everybody it's a lanai from then on, and they'll be like, "You got a what?" I'm just used to calling them porches. Anyway, so what's up with you guys? You guys never contact me or to give me any kind of feedback or anything. Every once in a while I get comments on YouTube about, hey man, I'm enjoying the podcast, or hey, you dummy, you've already talked about that, or hey, silly, why are you doing this at all? But like nobody's like, hey, I want to be on the podcast. Only person that's ever said that is Byron and One Lonely Farmer. And Mom, of course. Mom. Hi, Mom. So yeah. Give me some feedback. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on with you. Like, you know, are y'all experiencing a hurricane? Is anybody from out west listening to this? I know I looked on the news this morning and apparently y'all are having snow out in the Midwest. Snow. It was just in the 90s here and you guys are having snow. That's so weird. I would like to talk a little bit about Netflix. I know you guys are sick and tired of listening to me talk about Netflix. But I watched the latest season of what was it? Oh, it wasn't on Netflix, it was on Amazon. Amazon had the latest season of Man in the High Castle, season 3. I started watching Man in the High Castle because I heard people talking about it and saying it was amazing, and I thought, okay. And I watched the first season, and as I'm watching the first season, I was like, I'm really bothered by this. And anybody who watches it probably will be bothered by it, because the premise of the show is during World War II, apparently the Allies lose. And what happens is Germany takes over the entire east coast of America, and the Japanese take over the entire west coast of America. And then there's a spot in the middle called the neutral zone, where it's sort of lawless and all kinds of chaos happens. But man, there is so much Nazi paraphernalia in this show. It kind of makes you wonder, where did they have all this crap laying around? Or did they have to go into production to make a whole bunch of Nazi crap just to make it look like this? It's really disturbing. But push through it, keep watching it. You're going to realize that the characters that you hate in the beginning, you're going to start liking. Kind of like Game of Thrones. The characters that you're like, oh, this guy's a son of a bitch, you know, you're going to like feel for them later and be like, oh no, he had to do that because of this, and oh, he had to do that because of that. And it's really interesting. it gets really interesting when there's a science fiction element involved. And you see that in season 2. Season 2 is sort of a big reveal in a lot of ways, because suddenly they're showing you like why things are the way they are, and an alternate possibility of things. And I can't say too much because I'm going to give it away. But season 3 is just a wild ride of stuff happening. It's good. It's never a dull moment. There's all kinds of stuff happening, and it's awesome. It is. It's very creative. The actors in it are good. The direction in it is good. The cinematography is good. It's weird sometimes how they bounce around, but I get why. I highly recommend it. So, I did watch Joe Rogan's new special on Netflix. It's great. It's funny. It's a lot of stuff I've heard him talk about on the podcast that he's sort of developed and refined and made funnier. It's good. It's going to offend a lot of people. But that's kind of the job of comedians, is to find the humor in things that most people don't. I am watching a new show on Netflix called Travels with My Father, or Travel with My Father. Is it Travels with My Father? I think it's Travels with My Father. There's a comedian apparently from England, Jack Whitehall, and he is, I just looked him up on Google. He's 30 years old now. This has been on TV apparently for 2 seasons, so he was 28 when this thing started. He talks his 76-year-old dad. His dad had him late in life, but he talks his 76-year-old dad into going on a trip with him, and convinces his dad. Somehow his dad is convinced that he's going to take his son to culture him and make a man out of him and toughen him up and all kinds of stuff like this, all through Europe. Meanwhile, Jack has his own plans of having fun with his dad, and it's interesting. It's really good. They're only like 30 minutes long. It's funny. I laughed out loud several times at what they get into. It's pretty doggone good. I highly recommend checking it out. You're going to enjoy it. Do that. I never heard of Jack Whitehall before watching this series, but apparently he's a big deal overseas. He just hasn't like made a big splash in America yet. But he's he's in television. He does movies. He does game shows. He's a big deal. So check him out. I recommend it. What else? What else is there? I don't know. I got nothing else. This is going to be a short one. I'm just going to cut it short right here. Okay? My wife picks at me all the time because she says, "You said you were going to stop and then you just keep talking." Yeah, I know. You should know that by now. You're married to me. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully Dad will be here Friday and I'm taking off work and we'll get to building this stuff and you'll see more of us. So, wish us luck, and I hope everybody makes it through the hurricane okay. I want to thank everybody for checking us out and tuning in, and tell your friends, rate, review, subscribe, do whatever. You know, show me some love, show me some support. Tell me how to support you. Like let me know what's going on. Appreciate every one of you. Y'all take care. Bye.